The Cincinnati Reds' inactivity makes us believe that they think they've got their answer to the lineup. I'm going to tell you why that's not the way to be thinking.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Reds. We are your daily source for all things Cincinnati Reds. I'm Stephen Offenbaker. He's Jeff Carr. We have a combined 14 years, let's call it, experience podcasting about these Cincinnati Reds. We love baseball. We love the Cincinnati Reds. We've taken our love for the game and our love for this team, and we have turned it into information for you. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And on today's podcast, we're going to discuss how every team in baseball, whether it's the Dodgers to the Reds, the Mets to the A's, all gamble when it comes to roster construction. We're going to ask the question, do the Reds already have their cleanup hitter on the roster? Spoiler alert, they do not. And finally, we're going to dig into the bullpen debate and decide once and for all whether or not the Reds should bring Junis back or Farmer back for the final spot. We're going to talk about all of that on today's show that's brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets back, guaranteed win or lose. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started today. All right, Jeff, where you and I are going to get started is by looking at this Reds player collection, this roster, and trying to decide, do maybe the Reds think that they already have the answer to the power situation, already have the answer to the cleanup hitter in-house? Because if they do, we have big problems.
Yeah, their conservative approach to this need, this specific need that they've had. I mean, the cleanup hitter thing really was something that came about this past year, but the outfielder need has been something they've had for a couple of years now. But their conservative approach to this has me a bit concerned, because it's easy to take a look at this roster and say, well, one of the hallmarks that the Reds are building this entire roster around is the young guys progressing, the young guys getting better. So you could extrapolate from that thought process and say they're looking at CES and they're saying he's going to be healthy. He's going to be ready. They're looking at Matt McClain. They're saying he's going to be healthy. He's going to be ready. And they are expecting their scouting reports to match the needs that they have, which, quite frankly, the scouting report on CES is very good when it comes to hitting. The scouting report on Matt McClain is that he is a good all-around player, and his tiny little sample size worth of a track record hitting third says that he was pretty good at doing that. But they cannot be betting on this. And we just got done saying on our first episode of the new year, hope cannot be a strategy for this team. If they go into 2024 with these two guys in mind for the middle of the order, hope is a strategy.
Well, first of all, when you talk about those scouting reports, both for CES and Matt McClain, those scouting reports were written when they had the factory original number of wrists and shoulders that they came with. They don't have that anymore. So I don't know what
it's aftermarket, right? It's aftermarket.
Yeah, they're all aftermarket now. The factory original versions have definitely changed. If hope's going to be the strategy, Jeff, if somebody within this organization is actually going to sit in a room and they're going to map out what they're doing, and there's somebody that has the take of, CES and Jake Fraley can combine for 40 home runs, and that is as good as going out and signing a power hitter. I'd be like, cool. Are you willing to guarantee right now that that's going to happen, or else I fire your ass? Well, that should be the mindset. And there's nobody that's going to stake to that claim if their job is put on the line with it. And I think that's probably part of the problem in this front office already, which is nobody's job is on the line ever. So for me, you can't do that. Do they have the power hitter that they need right now? No, they do not. Tyler Stevenson showed signs of breaking out. Could he be the 40 homer guy? We all think, well, at least that I thought he could be. Probably not, but he'll give you 20 to 25. A healthy CES could get you to 30. A rebounding Spencer Steer could get you to 30. But again, all of those are hopes and dreams and wishes, and wishing don't make it so. They have to go out and sign a guy, Jeff. They have to go get someone that can run into 35 home runs. That's what this lineup is desperately missing. they're not going to small ball their way to a division championship in 2025. There's going to have to be times where they can deliver the big strike. Now, I'm not saying go all in the opposite way, which the Reds have a tendency to do. I'm not saying go in and to be home run or nothing. That's not what I'm saying. But if you can get Ellie and Matt and one other guy on base, and you can keep those bases juiced more often than not, you put a power hitter in that 4 spot, things are going to happen. Good things are going to happen. And then you're cooking with gasoline. But it all begins with the Reds doing something different. And that something different is, for the love of God, go sign somebody that can hit a home run.
Yeah, the most recent rumor, something rumbling about Anthony Santander, is that there are a couple of teams, quote, behind the scenes who are going after him. That was from John Heyman. He did not specify, obviously, the behind the scenes teams. I think that's just
because he made that up. That is because he made that up.
To keep fans like us on the line, man. Like, we're going to sit here and wonder, are we behind the scenes? I don't think so. Like, Anthony Santander is getting bids from the highest of bidders. He is getting bids from the biggest of markets for the Reds to compete with them. I don't know how that works because it's a 5-year deal that he's looking for, and we're probably talking about more money than what Teoscar Hernandez got per year. So I don't envision the Reds winning that bidding war. So they're looking at making a trade. And what does that trade look like? Is it for Brent Rooker? Because if you get Brent Rooker, you still need an outfielder. Is it for, or unless you're just going to punt defense in the outfield, which they've done for the better part of my life. Yeah.
I don't think they would need to go get an outfielder. If they went and got your boy and rescued him from Sacramento purgatory and brought him to Cincinnati, he becomes your full-time DH. Spencer Steer keep getting reps in the outfield. The Freychild combination will get you an outfielder that's 20% above league average if you play them correctly. And the key there is play them correctly. That would be the big. Going and getting Rooker would make me happy. I would consider that to be the big move. The press conference, hold up the jersey, and they could be done. And I would give them a B for the offseason between that and what they've done with the starting pitcher and the pitching and the bullpen.
I would like that, but I don't know. Like, I would still be very hesitant to love the outfield. I think I'd still put them as my biggest question mark heading into the season. So it's all about how they answer that, because I don't think they've got the answer in-house. So if that is what they're operating off of, then they're operating off of faulty information and hope. They're hoping that people can step up. And honestly, I was looking at this too, like, defensively, Anthony Santander is very, very marginally better than Jesse Winker, and we poo-pooed the heck out of Jesse Winker's defense. So
by the end of a 5-year contract, he's a DH.
Yeah, by the end of year 1, he might be a DH. So there's a lot of fine lines here that I really wish the Reds would have been able to get Teoscar Hernandez, but I think that there were circumstances that they had no control over, that he just wanted to go back to LA. There wasn't a whole lot that the Reds or any other team could really do about that. But it's a bummer, because that felt like the perfect answer to this question. And now it feels like, unless they come up with a trade that we've not heard of, or a trade out of thin air that just there's been no rumblings at all about, for some big dude that we don't know, like, I just don't see them answering this with one move. They're going to have to do it with 2. They've got to get an outfielder, and they've got to get a middle of the order bat. And by the way, too, I've been saying this a lot, and I actually looked a little bit deeper into this. The cleanup hitter wasn't as big of an issue as the number 3 hitter. When you look at the statistic, and we talk about OPS plus a lot on the show, they have a split OPS plus that compares the player or the position or the batting order, whatever, to league average. So the league average number 3 hitter compared to the Reds number 3 hitter was 31%. The Reds were 69 OPS plus compared to the league average third hitter. They were the worst third hitter collectively in all of baseball. So it's not even just the cleanup spot. And maybe if you shore up the cleanup spot, you shore up number 3, but the middle of the order is the problem. That's basically what this boils down to. And the Reds need to answer that with something other than, we hope this guy can work out.
Well, what if the lineup, before we get out of this segment here, Jeff, if let's just, again, assuming health out of spring training, right? We're going to assume health out of spring training. if the lineup is Matt McClain, Ellie De La Cruz, Spencer Steer, whatever power hitter outside higher that you get, Tyler Stevenson, that's not a bad 1 through 5. That's going to be a better OPS plus in the 3-hole than 68. Even if Spencer Steer doesn't do what we hope, he's going to be better than 68.
I think so, and I think that's got to be what you're looking at, and maybe you even consider Jake Fraley in the 3-hole if it's against right-handed pitching or something like that. But yeah, like if you can give Spencer Steer, and I know that he's told everybody that he likes to move around, he likes the variety, but I think there's something to knowing your role, knowing where you're going to play, knowing where you're going to hit, that's just going to increase your productivity. I think that would happen for a guy like Spencer Steer. So if you told him you're playing left field and you're hitting third, and he just knows that's going to be the case, I think that's a good idea.
All right. Well, time is going to tell, Jeff. They're running out of time. We're in week number 1 of January. They need to be done by February 1st. If there's any hope at all of getting this problem solved by spring training.
And time is the key, because Major League Baseball teams use one of two things to contend, and the Reds have chosen time. We're going to explain a little bit more about this coming up next. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need in live bets, same-game parlays, prop bets, so much more. There's so much to check out over on FanDuel, including some great MLB futures. In fact, they've got odds on division winners right now. The Cubs are the favorites to win the NL Central at plus 110. Then you got the Brewers at plus 240. The Reds coming in third, 5-1 odds to win the division. You've got the Cardinals and the Pirates are like on the same level, plus 900 and plus 950 for those two teams. Interesting to see the gap there between the Reds and the Cardinals. Yeah. Anyway, let's get over to FanDuel and check out that $200 in bonus bets guaranteed whether you win or lose. FanDuel is the best way to take advantage of the NFL playoffs because they are an official partner of the NFL. We are talking Reds baseball here today, every day, every week, every month, all year long. Make sure you subscribe to get at least 30 minutes of Reds talk in your feed every single day. And Steve, with this talk about, are the Reds expecting somebody on their team to get better? Are they betting on CES or Matt McClain? Are they going to make a big signing? This had me thinking, and I feel like it's a key thing to understand, especially when you are trying to figure out as a fan what your team might do, because it's easy for us to sit here and say, best free agent available, that's the guy you need to go get. But there are many cases, in fact, can't think of any cases to the contrary, where the Reds don't get the best free agent available. And because of that, we need to understand why, because it's easy for someone to sit there and say, well, it's because they're cheap and they don't care. But there's a difference, because every Major League Baseball team is ran differently. 30 Major League teams, 30 Major League businesses. MLB might as well be Major League business as much as it is Major League Baseball, because you've got the Dodgers that spend money, print money, make up money, and you've got the, let's say the Rays. I'm not sure who's the lowest payroll right now, but the Rays or somebody like that just does not spend money at all, and yet they all contend to do the same thing. Because teams pick different ways of gambling, where the Dodgers and the Mets and the Yankees and the, big market teams like that spend money, the Reds spend time. And I think that's why people are so frustrated with them, because quite frankly, we're tired of waiting. But that's what the Reds have chosen to do, is wait.
Yeah, there is no patience left in the city of Cincinnati, and I don't blame one Reds fan one bit for being done with the waiting game. We look at what's happening with the Dodgers, and it's very easy. It's very easy to apply the easy answer to this, right? And you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's super simple to stand outside of Great American Ballpark and shout at the clouds about how cheap Bob Castellini is and how ridiculous Phil is for saying this or doing that. But at the end of the day, if you look at what the Reds are actually spending in dollars, and our buddy Ken shared this, and I wish that I had grabbed it so I could cite it correctly, Jeff. But he shared a graphic that basically showed team spending by percentage, and the Reds and the Dodgers are within 1 percentage point, I believe it was, of spending against their revenue. And that's very telling, because you know what the Reds don't have? They don't have a multi-billion-dollar TV deal in the Los Angeles market. The Reds don't have that. A big part of the economics problem, a big part of the Reds being able to go out and compete at signing players is, you know, what's the revenue stream truly going to be like? And the Reds simply don't have it. And that's not Castellini's fault. That's not our fault. That's just the way that it is. And it's why that I continue to say that eventually there's going to be a shutdown for economics to reset in baseball. But the Reds have chosen time, as you say, time to develop players, time to try and rebuild, time to try and make deals, time to try and get this team competitive. But the problem is they've been bad at time management. They've been bad at trading players when they need to trade players. They've been bad at blowing it up when it needs to be blowing up, and instead missing their window. Think 2015 for how long they held on to Todd Frazier. How many times Bob Castellini interfered with trading Billy Hamilton, for crying out loud, when the Reds could have gotten something for him. Those are the opportunities the Reds had that they screwed up. Those are the legitimate criticisms of this front office. Those are the legitimate criticisms of this ownership group when they've done dumb things. Those were dumb things, meddling in things they don't understand. Stick to the produce and let the baseball people baseball. That's what the philosophy should have been all along. It wasn't, and that's why they're in this hole. They need to recognize that and understand that that's why everyone's out of patience, because they took the time that this city would have given them and they squandered it. So the time for time is over. It's the time for action. Now is the time for action. Now is the competitive window. Now is the opportunity for this team to compete against the big boys and get into the tournament and wreak havoc. This team could do that, but they're missing a couple pieces. And time is not going to fix those pieces, Jeff. Money is. Money is the name of the game. Money is the answer.
And the revenue bump that you get from making the playoffs is something that it feels like the Reds just either they don't understand or they're completely ignoring it, because you do get a bump. Your ticket sales get a bump. Your TV revenue gets a bump because you make the playoffs, and that's really what they got to focus on. And while you were talking about that, I did go find what it was that Ken was referencing over on Twitter. Obscure X Reds tweeted this out. He said revenue and payroll per Forbes. This wasn't like made up. This is Forbes that said
this wasn't from the Obscure X Reds ledger book. This is actually
yes. He didn't pull an Excel spreadsheet out of nowhere here. It was Reds revenue 315 million, Reds payroll 130 million. Dodgers revenue 549 million, Dodgers payroll 228 million, does not include deferrals. The percentage of revenue that is spent on payroll, 41.3% for the Reds, 41.5% for the Dodgers. So the percentage isn't that different. It's just the fact that the Dodgers out-earn them. And in order to earn money in this game, you got to pay money in this game. And I thought it was interesting, Steven. You and I talked about this a little bit before we hit record. Cross-sport reference for just a minute, but Jerry Jones, the Dallas Cowboys owner, I'm sure a couple of people have heard of him, had some illuminating comments to the effect, and I don't have the word for word pulled up to reference it word for word, but basically he was asked if he is going to hire a general manager this offseason. He's pretty much asked this every year, but he was very illuminating in his response, where he said that when I purchased this team, whatever it was back in the 90s or something like that, he purchased it for a career. He didn't purchase it as a nest egg. He didn't purchase it as, some sort of just sit back and let the money flow in. He wanted to run the team when he purchased it. And basically when he stops running the team is when he sells it. So I find that intriguing, because I think that owners in sports approach their teams differently. We've heard, and as much as it sounded goofy, Phil Castellini say that the Reds are operated like a nonprofit organization. Now, I think he very, very badly said that they spent the revenue that they made. I think what he really meant was they don't take a loss on the Reds. They're not going to spend so much that if they fail, then they lose money on it. They are making sure that whatever they spend, they are not losing money on the Reds. So as much as we want them to take a risk, this is why we don't see them take a risk. And I felt that this was important to understand. It's not necessarily that I agree or disagree with it. This is just how it is. We can agree or disagree with it all we want. This is how the Reds are ran. And until they get a new owner, I just don't think we'll see them go all in on the spending, as it were. They are hoping and they are waiting for players to get better. And that's why it's so frustrating for fans like us.
Oh, bless your heart. You think we're going to get a new owner. The innocence of youth.
Time is undefeated.
The innocence of youth rears its ugly, ugly bearded head and says, when we get a new owner.
Hey,
oh, Jeff.
Not ugly. Anyway.
No, listen, I think we're both on the same page with this.
Yeah.
I just feel like the big fix is coming, guys, and it's going to be super painful when it comes, and we'll push a reset button and things will get better. But in the meantime, the Reds have an opportunity to take a big swing right here, right now, and get this done and make this team competitive, at least in this very narrow window. We're really talking about 2 seasons before the collective bargaining agreement's up. A 2-year deal, a 2-year big money deal to get somebody paid and fill the hole in the lineup. The Reds can do that. They can do that right now, and they can do that without breaking the bank or mortgaging the future. Hopefully, that is a decision that is made. But listen, there's other holes besides the lineup, Jeff. There's an opening in this bullpen. There is a need for one more arm, probably. And the question on the table, if the Reds can only bring back one, is it Junis or is it Farmer? We're going to discuss that coming up next. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets to events with Game Time. Jeff and I tell you about Game Time all of the time. This is what we use. We head down to the banks. We find our favorite restaurant. We have some dinner, have a couple drinks, and then right about time for first pitch, we jump on Game Time. We grab our tickets and we head over to the ballpark. We get great deals on tickets. A great feature of Game Time. You go on there, you get all-in pricing. You know exactly what you're going to pay for the tickets that you're looking at. If you're on the road and you're going to a venue that you've never been to before, well, they've got you covered there as well, because they show you a view from your seat. You're going to know exactly what it is that you are getting. Just head over to Game Time today, download the app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. That's $20 off their already greatly reduced prices. Terms do apply. Again, just create your account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. If you can't watch us here on YouTube, take us on the road with you. We are the great road show when it comes to Reds podcast. We are on every single podcasting app that you can find out there. And if by some miracle you find one we're not on and you need us to be on it, just message Jeff. I'm sure he can make it happen for you. All right, Jeff, let's talk about this bullpen for a minute, because in the grand scheme of things now, this one's not super high on the priority list, but there is a little bit more work that needs to be done. Buck Farmer coming off of a really great year, in my opinion. I think we undervalued him as a whole. Reds fans did. And what he did and what he's done basically during his time in Cincinnati. And then you've got Junis, who really pitched very, very well when he came over to the Reds as well. Both of those guys entered the free agent market at the end of last season. Both are still available. The Reds need an arm. Maybe it's a case of go with the guy but maybe they bring one of these guys back. And just on the surface of it, looking at the two players and the affordability and the costs and what they're trying to do in other areas of the team, I think Buck Farmer is the better fit. I think he'll cost a little bit less than Junis will. I know Spot Track has Junis somewhere in the $4 to $5 million range. I think that's wrong. I think he's going to get more than that. He would have stuck around. If he was in the $4 to $5 million range, he would have just stuck around, Jeff. That's kind of my estimation on that. So for me, I think Farmer is going to be more affordable. I think they have a better chance of getting Farmer on a 1 or 2 year deal. It doesn't have to be a multi-year deal per se to get Farmer back. So I just think it's a better natural fit. We kind of know who he is. We know what he can do. And if given the opportunity to be your 7th inning guy, maybe, I think that's a great role for Buck Farmer. I think he's a good fit for the team to bring back.
Yeah, and I think he would be a very solid middle relief option for the Reds. I mean, when you kind of break it all down, nobody pitched more innings out of the bullpen than Buck Farmer did. You can make the argument of Nick Martinez, but Nick Martinez got a lot of his starts based on being a starting, or a lot of his innings based on being a starting pitcher, not being purely a relief pitcher. Purely out of the bullpen, nobody pitched more innings than Buck Farmer did for the Reds last year. And in fact, he's actually pretty decent when it came to like win probability added and stuff like that for a relief pitcher. His WAR last year, Steve, 1.7. In fact, that's better than any other pure reliever. I got to see exactly how Fangraphs broke down their WAR when it came to relief pitching, but I believe, okay, no, Nick Martinez was ahead of Buck Farmer, but still, you're talking about a dude that provided a lot of value for the Reds. And like you said, Spot Track had him around $6 million per year. He actually made more last year. I think he made $8 million last year. So it's, $6 to $8 million for a solid middle relief option would be a great idea, especially when you consider you've got a couple of question marks now. No more Fernando Cruz. And as much as I know that you don't like Fernando Cruz, he had the talent to be a closer 1B.
And
or
I just, not that I don't like Fernando Cruz. I just feel like he wasn't a option to get you through a whole season.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like, and yeah, because his question was consistency. There is also another question mark of, is Graham Ashcraft going to be in the bullpen, and what is he going to look like as a relief pitcher? I believe that we both think that could be a very successful change for him, but we got to see it before we can actually say that's a thing. We know Buck Farmer is going to come in and give you a solid 3 outs. He's not going to just absolutely blow you away with anything in particular. He is just a consistent middle relief option. And I think that's what the Reds need right now. And I'm with you too on the Jacob Junis thing. Like, I would like Junis for his versatility, but because of his versatility, he's not going to cost $4 million. I don't know what Spot Track's looking at there. I'd expect him to make somewhere closer to 10, maybe even 12 million, because he's looking for a starter's contract, or at least what Nick Martinez got last year. And the Reds paid Nick Martinez a lot more than $4 million per year.
$12 million last year.
Yeah. So I think that's probably what we're looking at there. The third answer to this, because we're saying, bring back one or the other. Do you need one or the other? Like, do we trust? Would you say you trust more that Graham Ashcraft's going to break out as a relief pitcher and they won't need either one of these guys, or should they get one of these guys?
With the trade of Cruz, even having Graham Ashcraft in the back of this bullpen, you need one more. You need one more arm. So for me, yes, you got to go get one of these guys, and Graham Ashcraft has to pan out, and then you have a solid bullpen. So look at us. I hope Graham Ashcraft can do it. But I think that he can. I think we know enough about Graham Ashcraft to know what he was first time through the lineup usually, and being able to come out and pitch with maximum effort. I don't doubt that Graham Ashcraft can be a pretty scary reliever coming out of the bullpen. So for me, you just need to fill this one more spot. And again, I think Buck Farmer is he's the affordability purchase. He's the one we can go get. So, and he's pretty good. So I would be perfectly fine if they go out and get Buck Farmer to kind of round out this bullpen.
Yeah. And that's, you always need more bullpen help. To shun the bullpen would be a little bit foolish. But I think that's a great place to end it here today. A lot of offseason talk coming up later this week. I want to dive into some regression candidates. What's going to happen with Elly De La Cruz? What's most likely to happen with him? Because I don't even know if he can regress. I'm going to tell you why on the next Locked On Reds podcast. Until then, make sure that you are subscribed so that you get every single one that we've got coming to you all off season long. We're going to be with you every step of the way until pitchers and catchers report, and all the way through that as well, because we love talking Reds every single day, and we want to talk Reds with you every single day. So hit subscribe. Also, follow us on your favorite podcast audio app, because we're on all of those as well. If you can't watch us on YouTube, you can listen to us on your favorite podcast audio app. Until then, Steve, people know that they can follow us for rumors and for all this other stuff, because
we're going to keep you locked on Reds every single day.
I'm not ugly. I just wanted to make that perfectly clear.
Oh, did I hurt
anybody listen on audio? You can't see me on YouTube. I'm not. All right.
They're lucky.
Not.
They're lucky.